Today is Tuesday, 25 November 2025. Good day and welcome to another edition of Citizens Movement Radio News. I'm Bernard Stele, ready to bring you the latest news and updates. Here are today's headlines on Citizens Movement Radio News. Senator Tome and Honorable Mlilo speak on 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. ZYC in corruption scandal as youth say council hijacked by ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF has failed Zimbabwe for 45 years, so there's no need to extend failure to 2030, says opposition. Now let's delve into the detailed stories. As the world state observing the 16 days against gender-based violence GBV today, the opposition's welfare department leader, Senator Maibongai Tome, sent out a message calling for an end to harassment of women through cyberbullying and called for more empowerment of women in politics and society. Let's hear her speaking.
Today, 25 November, marks the beginning of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This is an international campaign that runs from November 25, which is actually International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, to December 10, which is a Human Rights Day. The campaign aims to raise awareness and drive action to end violence against women and girls worldwide. This year's international theme is Unite, Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls, emphasizing the need for collective efforts to address this pervasive human rights violation. Gender-based violence affects 1 in 3 women globally, with alarming rates of physical, sexual, and digital violence. The campaign urges governments, organizations, and individuals to invest in prevention and support of survivors and challenge the harmful norms. In Zimbabwe, we continue to advocate for an end to GBV as it is so prevalent due to harsh economic conditions in our country. The theme for this year in Zimbabwe is Unite, End Digital Violence Against All Women and Girls. It focuses on preventing online abuse and promoting digital safety. The color is orange, symbolizing a brighter future free from violence against women and girls. The campaign urges collective action to address gender-based violence, support survivors, and also challenge harmful norms. Digital violence in Zimbabwe is so prevalent. These are harmful behaviors facilitated through digital platforms. There's a lot of cyberbullying, including body shaming, online harassment, coordinated disinformation campaigns, gendered hate speech, and non-consensual sharing of intimate images. This type of violence disproportionately affects women and girls, particularly those in public offices, such as activists, journalists, and politicians. We demand a stop to digital violence. It has real-world consequences, often silencing victims, causing emotional harm, and in some cases, escalating to physical violence. The rise of social media, affordable smartphones, and influencer culture has exacerbated the issue, turning digital spaces into sites of harm alongside empowerment. Efforts to address digital violence in Zimbabwe include the legal framework such as the Cyber Crime Act of 2022 and the Data Protection Act, which criminalizes the use of technology to perpetrate abuse. We demand an end to cyberbullying as we commemorate these 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Take time to listen to our women and girls and see what they want to contribute in our society. I thank you.
Meanwhile, opposition women leader Honorable Stabile Mlilo said she is deeply concerned about increase in cases of girl-child abuse and gender-based violence. Honorable Mlilo said much needs to be done by all stakeholders, including the government, in making sure rights of the girl-child are protected. Zimbabwe Youth Council ZYC reportedly failed to submit their financial statement for audit within 30 days before year-end as per requirements. The Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee also found out that there is abuse of public funds by the council, which failed to properly account for $21 million it received from the Treasury. Opposition youth leader and former Airport Mayor Anna Sunday said ZYC has been hijacked by ZANU-PF and operates on partisan lines. Sunday said,
after the revelations during the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee, I think it's very safe to say that the Zimbabwe Youth Council is operating as a criminal enterprise, and it's being presided over by criminals who also do not understand their constitutional mandate. So far, we've seen that they are breaching Section 3 of the Constitution, which speaks on the values and principles of good governance, which are transparency, justice, accountability, and responsiveness. The Zimbabwe Youth Council is failing to provide answers to Zimbabwe and to be answerable to us as young people about the use of public funds that were dispersed to them. I think there is need for reform within that institution, because young people in this country deserve protection, deserve their needs to be addressed, deserve their voices to be heard. And that is nothing like what the Zimbabwe Youth Council is doing. On top of that, they are turning this youth council as a ZANU-PF campaign machinery. We have seen with their lavish and extravagant spending during the so-called Youth Day commemorations, which are not, which are also part of the commemoration that are not inclusive. They do not reflect the diverse needs in terms of representation of young people at such gatherings. But you tend to see that there are some decisions or resolutions that are made on behalf of the 64%. I think the young people of Zimbabwe deserve better. They deserve better government. They deserve a government that is inclusive, a government that is true to its mandate, as prescribed by our constitution, a government that upholds transparency, accountability, and that is responsive. And this is just not it.
ZANU-PF has failed the country for the past 45 years, and there is no need to extend the suffering of people by giving Emmerson Mnangagwa more time in power. This was said by opposition official Eric Gono, who said there is no justification on postponing elections on the basis that ZANU-PF want more time to finish its development programs. Gono said,
ZANU-PF has been in power for the past 45 years, and in those 45 years, they've successfully failed the people of Zimbabwe, dismally so. So there is no point that one can stand up today and say there is certain projects that we want to complete, so we must force an extension of a government so that we complete any project. There is no project to be completed. If anything, what they will do in the remaining time is to make sure that everything collapses to ground zero. If you see how rapidly Boterekwa has collapsed, that's how rapid the ZANU-PF is good at collapsing everything in this country. So if possible, instead of extending their stay in government, it must be shortened by 2 years. They must go not tomorrow but today, because they have dismally failed the people of this country, and we are living like death throughout the world because our own family, our own government has failed us dismally so.
One of the senior opposition officials, Comrade Gift Ostalo Siziba, has dismissed Finance Minister Mthuli Nqube's claims that Zimbabweans are now surviving on more than $9 a day, insisting that the reality on the ground is widespread and deepening poverty. Siziba argued that government officials continue to paint an unrealistic picture of the economy while citizens struggle daily to afford basic necessities. Let's hear him explaining on the Tita T show with Ngobizita Mlambo.
As he did in Bulawayo, that no, $9 on average per day. But when you look at 61% of our country, which is rural, what can you say the state of poverty, the state of economic inequality in rural areas? What would be your views on that?
Even before we go to the question of the rural economy, let's unpack the mid-income economic characteristics.
Okay, yeah.
But Mtuli Ngube says that we are now in the shadows of a mid-income economy. Upper mid-income,
Not just middle-income.
upper mid-income economy, very correct. Now, what are the characteristics? So Mtuli Ngube assumes in his budget statement that as we stand as a country, we are better than Rwanda. We are like Singapore.
Yeah, in terms of GDP per capita.
Precisely the point.
Like 2,700.
And when you he says, by saying that, he says we are better than Ethiopia. A country, brother Mlamu, that has just built the biggest
one of the
dam
biggest.
project,
Hydroelectricity
power station, using its own domestic resources and the resources from the diaspora.
They didn't even use external funds.
So when you go to Ethiopia in Addis Ababa, you don't need newspapers from the national broadcaster to see the massive industrialization happening in that city.
That's true.
The president of South Africa, when he was touring in Africa before the host G20, was convinced that Ethiopia is one of the fastest growing development cities in the continent.
You mean Addis?
Addis Ababa.
They're building do you know they're building a second airport?
Precisely.
The Bole International Airport now is struggling in terms of capacity because on average there are a number of
when
flights.
When you look at the number of skyscrapers in Addis Ababa,
the quality of the roads is well.
Precisely. When you land in Rwanda, in Kigali, you don't need newspapers to tell you about the state of the economy.
Or President Kagame go on TV and say,
you get the point. When you go to China, when you go to Singapore, when you go to Japan, you don't need the national broadcast. It is the general equality of conditions that tells you the state of that economy. So Mtuli Ngube says that we are industrializing. But what is the data saying? Because that answers the question you raised on rural poverty. We inherited a dual enclave economy from the Smith regime. So, which is the starting point that we must resolve? The structure of the economy. So, our structure of the economy is a dual economy. One which is what Smith was able to do. A formal economy and an informal economy. Now,
that informal was highly rural then.
You get the point. Now, here is the problem with the economy that we inherited. Instead of resolving this structural dual nature of the economy, we actually further deindustrialized, further informalized. You get the point? To the extent that informal sector now accounts for more than 87%
of our national economy.
You get the point? With the informal sector only taking about 13%. You get the point? So that data on its own, that the Ministry of Finance, through the RBZ, has produced to the public, tells you the story.
So what motivates the Minister of Finance to then claim that on average you are spending $9?
That is where some of us think, have concluded that this is propaganda. Because data from the same government agencies confirms that our economy is informalizing. Exports account for a tiny percentage of our economy. Because upper middle income economy is demonstrated by its extent and its export culture. You get the point?
That's a characteristic.
Macro enterprises contributed less than 2% of the export earnings in this country. Because we have no export culture. Because the environment in the country is terrible. And the politics places a huge premium in the economy. So for us to build an upper middle income economy, we have to start from the truth, from transparency. Now let's go to the rural challenges in this country with extreme rural poverty. What are the signs of extreme rural poverty in this country? One is malnutrition, stagnant growth of the rural population. It's the social service sector, the social crisis in the rural areas. Children are walking more than 10 kilometers to go to school.
Yeah.
Look at the crisis when the infant mortality rate in the countryside. Those are not characteristics of the upper middle income economy. Because of the number of children that die during birth.
Yeah.
You get
Why
the point?
do they die?
If you go to
middle
the
income.
countryside, majority of citizens use midwives to give birth.
Yeah.
Not proper medical facilities. Because our health
Traditional midwives.
our health sector is in itself in intensive care unit.
Hey.
So those are not characteristics of a middle income economy.
They are characteristics of a state in distress.
It's a country in distress. You look at rural poverty, Brother Mlam. Traditionally, citizens used to survive in the countryside by making sure that they survive with subsistence farming.
Yeah.
But now you cannot because of lack of government intervention in subsistence agriculture in the country. So most of these people now cannot survive.
Yeah.
You get the point?
I get the point.
You go to the countryside, you are contracted with urban poverty, rural poverty, to say. So you cannot talk about the upper middle income economy in the face of the poverty that is characterizing the countryside.
Even unemployment in rural areas, serious.
It's precisely.
Yeah.
The Citizens President Advocate Nelson Chamisa has passed his condolences to the late social media commentator Tabeth Mamombe, popularly known as Chimama, who died last Saturday. Posting on his social media platforms yesterday, President Chamisa paid tribute to Chimama for playing a part in speaking about the need for change. He said the late celebrity is an example that leadership does not require one to be in public office, but engagement of citizens challenging the status quo. The former Mount Pleasant MP Fadzai Mahere has quizzed the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education Torirai Moyo about the issue of government schools soliciting for donations from politically exposed individuals. Mahere asked about the government guidelines or regulations governing such donations. Her comments comes in the wake of a Norton government school, Dudley Primary School, that solicited for donations from Wicknell Chivayo. Mahere said the government is on record blocking individuals who wanted to build a school in Chingwizi area in Mwenezi. Nkulumani constituency by-election candidate Rodney Jele and his team have hit the ground running as they rolled out their campaign today ahead of the 20 December by-election. Today, the team carried out door-to-door campaigns and mobilization for Jele. Let's hear how the day went.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Regis. Today we are here campaigning for Rodney Donovan Jele, our aspiring incoming candidate for Nkulumane constituency. As you know that Nkulumane constituency was under the late Moyokside. He passed on and it became vacant, and now we are going towards the by-election on 20 December. So Rodney Jele is one of the candidates, aspiring candidates, who is willing to take over Nkulumane as our House of Representatives in Parliament, standing in for Nkulumane. So today we are here doing our first campaign in Ward 22. Ward 22 is part of Nkulumane. There are two wards, Ward 23 and Ward 22. So we've started with the Ward 22, then we will go to Ward 23. Yes, we are expecting so much from our candidate, Ubaba Rodney Jele, as the Chief Elections Agent. We are expecting so much from him in terms of infrastructure development and youth programs that we are expecting from him, and also the development of Nkulumane. We are focusing so much on the youth and the women. we really want development in the side of the women and in the side of the youth. Projects for women, encouragements, a program for encouraging the youth, especially the drug abuse that is a major problem in Zimbabwe. Every corner of Zimbabwe, there's this problem of drug abuse on Jengu. So we are expecting so much from Uba Vuchele, from his manifesto, that he is going to make sure that the problem of drug abuse in Nkulumane isibanjiwe kumbe iyaphela. It must come to an end. So today we are here at our first campaign, and I'm Regis Banda. Sign out.
Ukuthi esebenzele umphakathi wenkulumane ngisho amakhosi eseyinkulumane lenketha inkulumane lenketha ebehambela izikhazo zethu thina esihambela zephalamenti esukhala ukuthi esenzele khona ukuthi iguqule inkulumane ethatha abatsha kuqala abasuse emgwaqweni nxa ungaba ungama-club ungayenzwa la incisa labo khansela ukuthi abatsha labana abafake ntenku abazilala emgwaqweni ngokuthi hawa isile kokwenza lawo ngizo kokwenza ikhale labo ugogo abefelokazi lentandane lazo ezikhale khathi sesifike esikhathini sethu ama-festive season layo bakhumbula nama-gifts ahamba lana ngaso lapho azuze khona layo engakhohlwa ukuthi umphakathi ngoba umphakathi nguzangivotela and then kuba thina omamanyana bababanyana abatsha la ithuthukise lama-skills nalawo abakwazi ukuthunga abakwazi ukuthi abanzuni ebuye labantu bezofundisa umphakathi ukuze ikhomiti la injani ikhule singakhali ukuthi uhulumende ebezosenzela emgwaqweni singakhali ukuthi uhulumende ebezosenzela esikolo singakhali ukuthi uhulumende ebezosenzela emphakathini kodwa kunga-empower umphakathi uzakwazi la ukuzisukuma ukuthi zisebenzele ngiyabonga.
Comrades and cadres. So we've managed to start our door-to-door campaigns today. The area of target was actually 22, but we managed to grow branches like one way and other part of Soxile going to the clinic and the other side going to Munet in Nkulumane High School side. So abantu basiyamukela kuhle kuhle. People knows the Yasan, they knows ukuthi wasebenza nzima, wasebenza kakhulu for the past 2 terms engu-councillor. So they are pledging their support. They are pledging to say they are going to come out in numbers to vote and also to defend their vote in case ZANU-PF tries by all means to try to rig us out of this victory.
Ngatichita door-to-door yedu ndafara zvikuru kuti pese patanga tichipinda vanhu vanga vachiti uyu munhu tomuziva akasevenza zvakanaka ari kansera zvinoratidza kuti vanhu vari kuziva munhu wavo ari kumanya naye Rodney Njere ende haasi munhu mutsva. Inini pachangu Rodney Njere ndinamufarira pachinhwana ndichitaura chishona seizvo zvindobhomanika izvi asi ndiri muno muNgulumane ndamwana muno muNgulumane. Rodney Njere haana munhu waanoketa kuti uyu mushona uyu mundivere kana kuti uyu mutoka, anotora munhu wese. Ndo zvaita kuti ndirambe ndichifamba naRodney Njere kubva kwese kwatakatanga kubva patakatanga kufamba naye 2013 kusvika pari nhasi ndicharamba ndichifamba naye. Saka vanhu varikutaridza kuti aiwa vari kumufarira ende nditotongoziva kuti iwo kuovha kungoita zvedu door-to-door kuita but haiwo kuovha pachako. Handina zvizhinji zvandingataura.
Citizens in Chitungwiza said they are not happy with the current state of roads in the dormitory town. Some of the residents who spoke to Citizens Movement Radio said most of the roads are almost impassable due to deep potholes that were exposed by heavy rains recently. The residents also said they are concerned that the central government collects vehicle taxes through Zinara but are not remitting the funds back to councils so that they can develop roads in the area. Tanzania's dictator Samia Suluhu Hassan has been taken to the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity following the killings of thousands of citizens during the elections that she rigged in October. The development means She will have to answer to the murder allegations and the torture of Tanzanians. The move has been welcomed by activists and human rights defenders who are calling for her resignation for fresh elections to be held in that country after proper electoral reforms have been implemented. Zimbabwe has approved a new HIV prevention drug called lenacapavir. The drug was invented by United States company Gilead Sciences and has already been approved by countries in Southern Africa like South Africa and Lesotho. Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe, MCAZ, made the announcement last week that they'd approved the drug, which is a pre-exposure prophylaxis and will be taken twice a year. On a sad note, prominent reggae artist Jimmy Cliff is no more. His family announced that the Jamaican superstar has passed away at the age of 81 yesterday. Cliff will be remembered for his hit songs like Reggae Night, Wonderful World, and Too Many Rivers to Cross, among others. He was part of a top group of Jamaican musicians that popularized reggae music globally. You are listening to Citizens Movement Radio. Now let's take a look at our sports news. Manchester United's mini revival was cut short by Everton last night, who beat them 1-0 at Old Trafford. Everton played more than 75 minutes with 10 men after their Senegalese midfielder Idrissa Gueye was sent off for slapping his own teammate on the 14th minute. The Toffees scored the only goal of the match on the 29th minute through Kaiman Jewsbury Hall. To conclude our Citizens Movement Radio News, here are the headlines once more. Senator Tome and Honorable Mlilo speak on 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. ZYC in corruption scandal as youth say council hijacked by ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF has failed Zimbabwe for 45 years, so there's no need to extend failure to 2030, says opposition. The news on CMR English was brought to you by Bernard Stele. Me and the whole team wishes you a good night. Meet me again another news bulletin. Stay tuned to Citizens Movement Radio, your station of choice, speaking truth to power. Meet us in other news bulletins. Good night to you all.